On a fairly regular basis, we'll get a phone call here at Redefined Horizons from a person that has bought a piece of property and they're ready to do something with that property. They want to put a fence around it, or they want to put up a building, or they want to make some other kind of improvements. And they usually we get this call, fairly quick after the sale closes. And the phone call, kind of goes something like this, Hi Landon, I just bought a piece of property and I want to do X, and I went down to the planning department and they told me I needed a survey to get my permit, or I went to do X and the neighbor got upset and said that I was over the property line and I need to figure out where my boundaries are at. One of the things that often puzzles me about those phone calls is in these examples I'm talking about, the individual that's given me the call had just bought the property. So what I don't understand is, why weren't these questions answered before the sale closed? Right? And so what I want to talk about today in this video is 3 questions about parcel boundaries that your real estate broker or real estate agent should be helping you answer, especially if you're buying a property, a non-residential property, a commercial property, some other type of business or investment property. Your real estate broker has an obligation to help you. They have a duty, a legal duty, to make sure that you make an informed purchase decision. And it just blows my mind that the kind of questions we're going to talk about in the video today are not answered before the sale closes. So there's 3 questions, really simple, basic questions that your real estate agent or broker should be helping you to answer before sale closes. And it's not that hard to get the answers. So the information is there, it's available, and for a lot of different reasons, the questions don't get asked and answered before the sale closes. And then I get a phone call after the sale closes and the buyer gets stuck with a problem, right? And so you want to try and get these questions answered before the sale, because if there are potential problems, it's always easier to get them fixed before a sale closes. Okay? So here's the 3 questions that you want to make sure you get answered. Okay, number 1, has the parcel ever been surveyed? Pretty simple question, right? Yes or no answer to that question. A lot of times I talk to folks in the real estate industry and they are surprised at how often we deal with property that has not been surveyed. So I would say the majority of property in California and Nevada where I work has not been surveyed in its current configuration. In other words, it's been created by deed, it's been created by a written description that hasn't been surveyed on the ground. And so, excuse me, why does that happen? Why does property get created, parcels get created without a survey? Because it's cheap. It's cheap to do it that way. It's kind of a pay now or pay later thing. And so people go cheap on the front end, and that pushes the cost into the future. So you want to find out if the property's been surveyed. And then if it has been surveyed, you want to find out how long ago was it surveyed. So frequently I deal with property, so the majority of the property that I deal with hasn't been surveyed. And then if it has been surveyed, I would say the majority of the property that we look at with the survey is over 50 years old. Okay, somewhere between 50 and 100 years old. I regularly see property in my office that hasn't been surveyed in 100 years. And so that's important for a lot of different reasons. One of them is they just didn't survey 100 years ago as good as they do today in a lot of cases because of technology. And the other reason is in California, for example, it only takes about 5 years for your neighbor or others to acquire unwritten rights in your property. Okay, which would be disclosed by survey, proper survey. And so really you should have a survey. If the property hasn't been surveyed in 5 years, it's a good idea to have a surveyor look at it, right? Because there can possibly be unwritten rights. So that's the first question. Simple question, yes or no. Has a property ever been surveyed? And a good real estate broker agent is going to be able to answer that question. If they can't get the answer to that question, they should know a reputable land surveyor that can get them an answer to that question. We, for commercial real estate brokers, if they call here, we will answer that question for them at no charge. Okay, so it's not hard to get an answer. Okay, here's the second question of the 3. Again, questions your real estate broker should be helping you answer before the sale closes. Question number 2, are the property corner monuments set? Again, pretty simple. Yes or no. Yes or no answer to that. So there are times when property gets surveyed and corner monuments aren't set. Again, why would you do that? Again, people do it because it's cheap, right? They're taking a shortcut. So it costs money to set monuments on a survey. And in California and Nevada, when you set monuments on a survey, you're required to file documents with the local county surveyor, and that costs money. So people will occasionally get a survey and not have the monuments set. We try really hard not to do that here at Redefined Horizons. If I'm doing a boundary survey for a client, I strongly encourage them to have me set the property corner monuments. And there are times when I won't do a boundary survey if the client won't pay me to set the monuments. So you want to know, are the property corner monuments set? Why is that important? Well, it's important because if you don't have your property corner monuments set, you don't know where your boundaries are at, right? So if the property corner monuments aren't set, you literally need a land surveyor to be on site to tell you where the property boundaries are at, right? And that's not convenient, right? So if you want to build a fence or do other improvements, or you hired an engineer and he wants to do a design, you gotta have the property corner monuments set so people know where the parcel boundaries are at, where the property lines are at. The other reason that's important is if the property corner monuments are not set, it makes it much easier for encroachments and unwritten rights to develop, right? Because people are building fences, walls, roads, utilities, other buildings, other improvements without the property lines marked, and so it greatly increases the risk that there's property encroachment. Okay, here's the third question, really important, related to the last one. Does the footprint of physical occupation match the parcel boundaries? What do I mean when I say physical occupation? That's a legal term. It just means what your neighbors are occupying on the ground, what you're occupying on the ground, right? That's fences, walls, driveways, utilities, buildings, the other things we talked about. You just want to know, do those things line up with the boundaries in the deed? Yes or no? That's important. If they don't line up, then you could have a situation where you've got unwritten rights. Again, not a super hard question to answer. I can usually look at a property within a few minutes and be able to determine if there is a low or high risk of encroachments. Okay, it's not that hard to do that today with modern technology. I can't give you a definitive answer to that question in 5 minutes, but I can give you an idea if it's something that you need to look at more closely. So, to summarize, don't wait till after the sale closes to get these questions answered, right? A good broker, a good real estate broker, a real estate agent, especially a commercial real estate agent, is already asking these questions for their client, right? These are questions you need to ask the seller. And if the seller doesn't know, you need to be talking to somebody that can find out, right? You need to be talking to a land surveyor. So just real quick, again, the 3 questions. Has the parcel ever been surveyed? Yes or no? Are the property corner monuments set? Yes or no? Does the footprint of physical occupation match the boundaries? Do you have encroachments? Yes or no? Or is that a low risk or a high risk? So if you want to get those questions answered, your broker or agent should be helping you do that.